LDS singles, and I actually was the one that contacted him first.
He contacted me, sent me just a little short message, and I responded.
He had in his profile, like the first line said, "I like ambitious women," and I was like, done!
I guess I set up a time, said, hey, I'd like to meet you in person. I called her, and then when I first talked to her on the phone, we talked for like 20 minutes, which I just think went pretty well for first phone contact.
So our first date, we didn't go there, we like met at the Salt Lake Library. And we said we'd meet at the stairs leading up to the roof.
And she was just sitting on some steps reading a book when I got there.
So then we like went on our date and that was it.
So Kaela and I had been out on a couple of dates and we had held hands, and the date was to make dinner at her apartment and then watch a movie at my apartment. So in my mind, I'm totally thinking, I've already held hands, we're making dinner and watching a movie, this is total cuddle and first kiss date. That's not what happened.
I went into this date and I was like, I'm still dating a lot of other guys, I'm still interested in other guys, like, we've held hands like earlier this week, I should probably let him know I'm still dating other people.
While we were cooking, there was a good moment standing in the kitchen. She was like looking over the recipe, and I kind of like came up behind her and tried to give her a kiss, and she wasn't having any of that. She quickly turned her head and walked away.
I went to the stove and I started like stirring whatever it was again, and I was like, so do you want to check the recipe and see how much I needed of this whatever?
And so we made dinner, ate dinner, and then went to my apartment for watch a movie. Started watching the movie, paused it about halfway through to get some ice cream.
No, before that though, we're sitting there watching the movie and we're cuddling, but I'm like, I can tell he keeps like looking over at me. He keeps kind of turning his head, and the whole time just like, just stare at the TV, just look at the movie, just look at the movie, don't turn your head, don't turn your head.
I'm thinking she does like me.
I did like him.
We're cuddling. So then we take a break, and again, I don't know what it is about a kitchen, but so we're like scooping up ice cream, and I kind of like start to walk over to her.
And he corners me.
And then she pulled this little evasive maneuver. And,
I actually, like, I couldn't pull an evasive maneuver. I couldn't get away. Like, he just kind of walked and I was kind of standing in the corner. So I was like, stayed like this, I can't like look up because then he'll kiss me, and I just said to him finally, I was like, I'm not going to kiss you.
I'm very polite about this, and say okay. But then after I dropped her off that night, don't kiss her, I am just done. I'm like, this girl's trying to string me along. There's other fish in the sea. I'm gonna move on. So I start thinking about other girls.
And then after that, like, we didn't talk. And I was like, oh. And like, he was going off like setting up dates with other girls, just thinking he's done with me because I'm stringing him along. So I ended up asking him out for our next date, which was the next weekend, and that whole week I kept thinking of things that I wanted to do. And I'd be like, oh, I want to do this. I was like, oh, I want to do that with Paul. Or like, oh, I want to do this. Paul would really like to do that. And I kind of missed him.
I pick her up and I have no idea what's going on. All I know is that the last time we went out, she wasn't going to kiss me. Didn't know what she was going to think, didn't know if we were going to hold hands. I'm kind of clueless at this point. But we go to the movie, and we do a little bit of cuddling, do a little bit of hand-holding there. And then after the movie, we came up to the Huntsman Cancer Hospital. They have a little patio, and the mountains are behind it. It's really pretty. So we came up there just to hang out and talk. And during that time, we were sitting in like a little love seat type bench and cuddling,
and the whole time I'm thinking like, I just want to kiss him. I just really wanted to make out with him.
But I'd already been shot down.
I was like, just couldn't get up the nerve to kiss him, even though I really, really wanted to. But like through the whole movie, because the movie was really terrible, like the whole time we're on this patio, I just really want to kiss him, but I can't get up the nerve to do it.
But I'm not, and I couldn't get up the nerve to do it because I'd been shut down too many times. So the date comes to an end, and I dropped her off, and that's that.
And I walk in my door, I'm like, oh, Kaela, what did you do? You messed it up. And so about like maybe 10, 15 minutes later, I text him like, I really like you, FYI, like with a little smiley face.
And I was completely frustrated with this because I was like, well, I was ready to take it to the next step last week, but you weren't. So I didn't know what to think then. And then I was like, yeah, so you like me. Does this mean that you've changed your mind about wanting to be exclusive?
And I like get really flustered when I talk about my feelings, and also when I have to talk about them on the phone. So my response was like, I don't know, maybe?
And so if a girl says, maybe I want to be exclusive with you, that's really no.
But when I say maybe, really that means yes. I just don't want to say yes, but he didn't know me well enough to know that.
Yeah, so I'm like, okay, well if it's maybe, then it's no. We'll work this out. So
we hang up the phone.
And then I get a text saying,
so I maybe don't want my answer to be no, and I just don't know how to talk about my feelings on the phone.
So I text back, I'm like, well, do you want me to come over?
No, so first he texts back and he's like, so this is really weird, but I do like you too, like, does this mean we're dating? Like, and I was like, yes. So that's when he asked, like, should we like be talking over the phone or should in person? And I was like, not over the phone. Do you want to come over again? And he's like, yeah, I'll be there in a minute.
So then I get in my car and drive over to her apartment, and then when I get there, there's this long metal staircase that goes up to her apartment, and she's sitting at the top of those stairs and sees me as I get out of my car and start walking towards the stairs.
So I start walking down to meet him, you know, I'm not just gonna sit there and like watch him walk up. So I start walking down, and he starts walking towards the stairs.
And then we just walked into our first kiss. Like, we didn't break stride, we didn't say anything, we didn't pause.
There's like no hesitation, there's no like I got there and waited, or like he got there and waited, or like we met like on the first step, or like just off. Like we met exactly at the base and just like our eyes connected and then we kissed. It was epic. It was like out of a movie.
And we knew, like, I mean, I knew as it was happening, I was like, that's a pretty good first kiss. We were like cuddling at the end of a date, and she told me, I think I'm falling in love with you, which in my mind I kind of thought that meant that she did love me, but she's just hesitant to say it first.
So my family went to Guatemala for Thanksgiving, and the weekend before we had a like pre-Thanksgiving dinner in Boise, and he came up and met my family and spent the weekend with us.
So I met her family there, and things kind of accelerated at that time when I got to see her around her family.
That was like the big game changer where he fell in love with me, and I could kind of tell things were different, but we didn't say anything. And then I went to Guatemala with the family.
And by the time she was gone, and while she was gone, I missed her like crazy, and that's when I knew I loved her.
I got back late Saturday night, and then on Sunday he told me that he loved me.
I think everybody does know this. Kaela is very loud. She has a hard time when she talks of like keeping her volume down. So it's a little bit fun. People will figure that out pretty quickly.
So I drink water a lot, like water bottles like that tall, and he drinks as much as I do and goes to the bathroom as much as I do, and I think that's awesome. In 20 years, I predict we will be conquering the world.
I see us being very happy. I see us having some kids 20 years from now. I think we'll probably have a dog.
We will be super attractive still.
I'll be in better shape than I am now.
One of the things I've learned from him is to constantly look around and see like, how can I make this better instead of just blindly going on being satisfied with how things are.
She's strong and she loves me and supports me, and I just feel so happy when I'm with her.
We got engaged standing in the exact spot where we very first met.
Kaela didn't know that I was going to propose. but I think she knew we were going to get married. I don't think she had. I think I caught her completely off guard.
Back in January, as part of the Sundance Film Festival, they were showing movies at the Salt Lake Library, and we went and watched this documentary there. And as we were going in, we saw that the gate to the stairs was open.
I caught her a lot off guard. She had no idea.
So after the movie, we started going up there, and I was just like walking up like, oh, we're going to the roof, and then he stopped me on that landing, and he was like, this is where I very first saw you, and I was like, yeah.
I don't even think she even knew, like, as I was proposing, that was the real proposal.
How long's that been? I was like, no, like 6, 7 months, and so it's like, well, it's been really great, and I want it to keep going forever.
I knew I wanted to marry Kaela after spending some time up in Boise with her family for New Year's, and we drove back. I think we drove back on a Sunday night, and on the drive back, we just had a really good talk, and you know, at the end of that, I felt really close to Kaela, and so I think that's when I knew.
And I didn't realize this was a proposal. Like, we hadn't really talked about marriage that much at all, and so I thought this was like the transition to like talking about it. So I was like, that sounds like a good idea.
After I went home that night, I got on the internet and was reading this discussion thread, and somebody had written, you know, how do you tell stories about how you knew that you wanted to marry your wife or fiance, and you know, that had just happened to me that day.
And then he said, will you marry me? And I was like, oh, this is happening.
I said, I found out today, or I knew today that I wanted to marry her, because I looked into her eyes and she just seemed so ageless, and I knew I wanted to be looking into her eyes 60 years from now.
So I said, I will marry you.
She's just perfect for me.
He is just amazing at being amazing. That's really cheesy. But yeah, I love him a lot. I think he's awesome.